want to turn our attention to this development and the growing flow of funds into building data centres. The amount of money we're talking about internationally is massive. I want to speak to retired former ADF senior officer. He's now Executive Director of Security and Defence Plus, Professor Ian Langford. Ian, thanks for your time. The Minister concerned, Andrew Charlton, just yesterday said that Australia is fast-tracking approvals for the funding and establishment of the data centres. Are we up to speed here? Are we generating enough of this investment onshore?
Thanks, Kieran. Great to be here. It's a really interesting question, and whilst I welcome the comments from Andrew Charlton, I think it's clear to most focused on this issue that we currently have no real commitments in place. So there is a significant risk in the midst of this massive outlay, around $350 billion globally US, from companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft and Meta, that Australia doesn't have, to coin a phrase, its ducks in a row to really maximise the flow of private equity and to get situations around projects being built now, being loaded into the system, where we can turn on these data and critical information infrastructure systems as increasingly we come to rely on digital technology to ensure continuity of government and delivery of essential services. So we've got announcements around 20 billion from Amazon and others, but already of that 13 billion has already been announced. And the other sort of 7 billion in that equation is on the existing network, which really means no new facilities. So the question globally is, how does Australia maximise the opportunity around the current investment? And are we keeping up with the flow of equity to be able to ensure that we capture as much of this technology onshore as we can to secure our digital pathways into the future?
So what has to happen then? What do we need to do? The Minister using the right language, saying that they want to improve the approval process, get more of this funding onshore. How do we make it happen?
We need to set the regulatory framework to allow, decreased latency, to coin that phrase, from approval through to construction. We need to recognise that private equity flow won't be here forever, and it's really at its culminating point now. So the opportunity for public-private partnerships for the development of onshore infrastructure, and you only need to be reminded of some of those issues around data breaches, privacy and protection to know that our future is in data and digital sovereignty. Government and partnerships with the private sector really need to act in haste to maximise the use of private equity and to move to shovel-ready infrastructure projects that can be turned on as soon as possible.
The flow-on effects of having this sort of tech sort of enmeshed in our economy and in our corporate world, it is more than just the business dividend, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, in its mature state, the entire Australian population lives within around 4 milliseconds of 4.5 billion people. So if we want to be world leaders, if we want our economy to grow, if we want to participate in the global economy, then the ability to be able to marshal and control our digital enterprises, to be able to build sovereignty and resilience by onshoring much of this data technology through AI centres and data warehouses, begins with the regulatory approval and the systems in place to access private equity immediately and to encourage other companies such as Google and Amazon and Microsoft and onshore companies as well to really share risk with government and develop these facilities as soon as possible.
And I want to ask you, as the former commando and commander of the commandos, you served in the Middle East as well as many other parts of the world. But as we turn our attention to the massive news of the week on the release of the hostages, the peace deal, as someone who's served in Israel and right around the region, how do you look at the events of this week? Do you have optimism?
Well, certainly I welcome the release of hostages. It must be great relief to their families and to the people of Israel more broadly. I do wonder about the resilience of the 20-point peace plan going forward and whether Hamas will honour any of its commitments to either share power in Gaza or to disarm in ways that the Trump-led initiative points out. And then really from Israel's point of view, it's fighting two conflicts, and others like Douglas Murray and other experts have commented that they may well win the war in the context of Gaza and the Middle East. But the challenge globally is how do democracies unify around common causes? How do we address some of these changes in the international system, which really see again the return of great power competition with countries like Russia and Iran and North Korea really threatening the rules-based global system. Coalitions, collective security, the leadership that's been displayed by Israel and the US and the Middle East, I think is part of the equation going forward. And Australia must decide whether it wants to be part of it or not.
Retired Brigadier Ian Langford, Professor now at Security and Defence Plus as Executive Director. Thank you for your time.